BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আপনি কি কোনো আইনি জটিলতায় ভুগছেন অথবা কোনো আইনি সহায়তা চান? তাহলে দেখতে ভুলবেন না লিগ্যাল সলিউশনস উইথ সারাফ খান। চোখ রাখুন BEONTV UK-তে।
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
Good evening and Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned in live to BEONTV UK, and this is the Wholehearted Living Show with Aamilah, and I'm going to be your host for this show today. Today I'm talking about something very, very interesting, something very close to my heart, and it's about safety and self-defense for young girls and women. And I'm joined by Gulshen Bano, who is the founder of Strikeback Self-Defense for Women.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for having me on. Yes, Strikeback.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I know there's like a longer introduction to yourself, so I'm going to pass that over to yourself to just share with our viewers what it is that you do currently.
Currently I'm the founder and owner instructor of Strikeback Self-Defense for Women, which is a women's and female-only Krav Maga self-defense school based here in the UK.
Okay. You do some amazing work. I met Gulshen last year, towards the end of last year, an event that I went to, and she did a very, very insightful and interesting talk around staying safe and self-defense, and like some very, very basic key messages that she shared with us. And I was like, wow, I need to have Gulshen onto the show and like really share her knowledge and her wisdom and put that out for other people to benefit from. And so we are going to be doing a demo towards the end of the show, so do stay tuned.
We are.
If you are tuned in, you can get us on Facebook and also on YouTube, and that's BEONTV UK. So please, if you are listening and there are others who you think will benefit from this conversation, then you definitely need to get them on board and get them tuning in and listening to this show. So before we come on to all the self-defense stuff, and before we go on later on to do a little bit of demonstration, let's talk about you, Gulshen, because you've got a really interesting story, because this isn't something that you started. This wasn't like... This is something that you did after a career that you pursued. So if you just can share with our viewers what your journey has been.
So I'm a typical Muslim South Asian girl. I followed the path that my parents said was a good path to follow. So I'm a pharmacist by profession. I went to medical school first to train to be a doctor. I did 3 years at med school and then changed over and qualified to become a pharmacist. So I've been a pharmacist for 22 years, so a long time, alhamdulillah. So yeah, that's my career, or that's my professional sort of path, or where I started off as a pharmacist, yeah.
Okay, and then you've now set this up. You're an instructor, it's your business, you're the founder, and how did this all come about, and where did this all come from?
Yeah, so if you'd said to me even 10 years ago that I'd be where I am, and I'm running a self-defense school, almost a global self-defense school now, it's not something I could even have comprehended back then. But it is, alhamdulillah, these things are sent to us, and we follow a path. And there's one lesson I've learned from this, and I'd say to sort of all the women, and especially the young girls looking out there, there's never an end game. You're always developing, you're always learning, you're always moving on, and that's life. And we find new things, and we go on and do other things. And every day is growth, and you change and do new things all the time. So I started as a pharmacist. I used to work in sort of Manchester, Northwest, Liverpool. And a lot of the places I worked, when I look back now, it makes the hair on my neck stand up that I was working some of these areas. I worked in some inner depths of Liverpool, in some of the roughest areas in Manchester. And as a naive young lady back then, and again, I teach young girls now and women, and it's everything I would teach the ladies not to do, I probably did back in those days. And, you know, working often very, very late in walking back in the dark to dark car parks. It was very naive because I didn't know any different. And unfortunately, that led me on a number of occasions to be in quite dangerous situations. And there's been a lot of instances that happened. I mean, I'm quite a petite sort of female. I'm only 5 foot, and I say that. It used to be I say I'm only 5 foot, and I used to be something I used to hide away. But now actually, I'm quite proud of being a petite 5 foot woman.
I'm a 5'0" as well.
Oh, are you? Oh,
I'm a 5'0".
Oh, amazing. So yeah, we can move mountains. And I think for me, a lot of the time, I was profiled because of who I was and the size I was. I was seen as somebody that would be easily sort of overpowered. And often when you're walking away from sort of dressed in a suit with heels on, I was an easy target. I was attacked by a drug addict in car parks. I was dragged backwards by a drug addict. In Toxteth, I remember coming back to my car. And bear in mind, I was very young back in those days. Coming back to my car, I had a beautiful sports car, driving around on my own, and there were 4 guys sitting on the bonnet of my car. So I was in some pretty scary situations. And every time something happened, I thought, I need to do something, I need to be able to learn something. And this carried on over a number of years. But sort of fast forward, I got married, had children, I've got my 2 little boys, and then a couple of instances happened while I was out with my little children. And that was, I think, the turning point. And as a mum, I think, you know, anybody who's a mum will agree that when it's your children or your family on the line, that's where you think, no, I've got to do something. And I wasn't prepared to risk anymore where my children were on, or their safety was on the line. So I started looking for something where I could learn that. I could learn, but it had to be something that would be easy to learn. I wasn't a young sort of teen that could do 20 years of learning patterns in, for example, a martial art. It was something that had to make sense, that I could use quite quickly and was going to be easy for me to learn. And that's when I came across this form of self-defence that I teach now.
Wow, that's a really, really inspiring and interesting story, Gulshen. But what you were talking and what I'm hearing one of the things that's coming through to me is that you didn't think about doing it until the worst happened to you.
Yeah.
And there's a key message in that. The message in that I'm picking up from you is like, don't wait until the worst has happened. Like, you can start now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can start now and start preparing yourself and get the key skills and everything that you need to know around self-defense. So I'm going to move on a bit, because self-defense, you know, we've seen a lot of cases in the media. Lots of things, not necessarily in the mainstream media, but all across social media. Yeah. There's always seen stories around women, especially women who look like us, the Asian ethnic minority, the Asian women, Muslim women, and we're seeing more and more increases in cases. So that's telling us that being able to be safe and also have those skills such as self-defense is such an important thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Where I am now is totally because of what you've just said to me. So when I started learning, and I went to a mixed class with a male instructor, and that's where I learned. And I'm, as well as being a pharmacist, and what I do now, I'm also a hijama practitioner, and I had my own clinic. I was doing hijama, and I was treating sisters sort of every other day, and pretty much every sister I came across, and, you know, just as you're chatting as you do when we're sort of having consultations, and I'd say, oh, I'm learning this self-defense. And that was it. It was that key pivotal moment. Every time I'd say that, the sisters I was treating, literally every sister I spoke to had a story. And that's when it dawned on me, as women, how much we actually do carry around and we don't share. So I have so many stories of what had happened to me, or situations I'd been in where I'd been in danger. And here were sisters I was treating, you know, in my clinic for hijama, and they were saying to me, "Oh my goodness, do you know this happened to me?" Or "I felt threatened," or "This happened to me," or "Somebody put their hands on my hijab," or I was at New Street Station, somebody pushed me. Can you teach me something? Can you show me what I do? And it dawned on me, the very women that need to learn this were not learning this. And one of the key reasons they weren't learning this is because there wasn't a place for them to go to learn. They didn't want to learn in a mixed class. They didn't want to learn with a male instructor. They wanted a safe space, a women's only space, to learn just some basic, essential self-defense skills. And there was nowhere for them to go. And this literally just blew my head, that the very women that need to learn to keep safe right now, and we're talking at a time where we were sort of post 9/11, the July bombings had happened, cases of Islamophobia really were on the rise. We were in a real sort of a pivotal moment where things were happening, and we're talking here in a city, Birmingham. I'm from just a tiny bit outside Birmingham in Solihull. All the time things were happening, all the time. And now we have social media and we hear of it. Even back sort of 20 years ago when I'm talking, there wasn't such a thing as social media, so people didn't hear about other people and what things were happening. And that was literally the turning point where I thought, I need to do something. I need to be able to teach these ladies. So I then went forward and qualified as an instructor to open my own school, which would be a safe space for women. So your ethnicity, your religion, your culture, nothing mattered. As long as you were female, young girl, you could come to a safe space without judgment, without fear, whether you had a trauma background, DV background, religious culture, whatever your reasons were. Strikeback was going to be a place for all women to come.
Wow, sounds amazing. Sounds like you have really put your thought into this to create this safe space, and it's born out of personal experience, and it's born out of a personal passion that you have from the experiences that you've had, and the stories that you've heard of women who have come to you. We often think that the safe spaces are in the house, and we think, okay, when we let our young girls or our women folk, when they're going out, that they are in danger. But danger can also be in the home, which I'm going to come back to.
Yeah.
But I've heard it in my own family when a young girl sets off to university, for example, or she's going to set off to college, and parents start to have this worry. You know, is she going to be safe on the streets? Okay, let's get her a mobile phone. Let's get her a car. Let's do all of these things. But what about when she is absolutely on her own? What are we giving her? It's a question, what are we giving her? Are we giving her the skill sets that she needs? Are we giving her the basic self-defense skills that she needs in the event that she is in a place or in a situation where danger comes about and she knows what to do? And, you know, we're going to talk through later on the basic stages before you even get to the physical aspect of it. But before that, just having... And I think, you know, parents should be listening to this, young girls, women, everybody should be listening to this, because what you're going to share is going to be some really, really important advice. But then coming on to my second point, we often think that our young girls and our women folk are safe inside the home.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of points there. Just going back to the first part that you said. So I grew up in a generation or at a time where boys went out and they learnt karate and they did kickboxing. Girls didn't, and I didn't. And I remember being, this is no fault of my parents' generation, that's just the way it was. My brother was the one that, bless him, that went out and did kung fu and karate and was a black belt. And we didn't. And yet, when we went, so when I say we, myself and my sister, and it's the irony of it now, my sister's actually a black belt in karate, so she does karate now as well. Completely unrelated, but we just both have ended up doing these things. But when I went away to university, I was so naive. I hadn't got a clue, we have our girls in a very cocooned environment. We bring them up, we protect them, we cocoon them, and then we expect them to go out into the big wide world and know what to do. And the irony of that, which is why, I mean, I teach a lot of my sort of clients, and a lot of the women I teach now are DV survivors, and we're going to come back and talk about this. But when I talk to so many of these women, they say to me, if I knew now what you're teaching me 20 years ago, my life would have been so different. And that's the key message. This is for me, and I'm so passionate about this. This for me is what we should be teaching our girls. You know, we teach them things like Green Cross Code, how to cross the road. Do we teach them that after they've got hit by a car, or do we teach them prior to that because that's their safety net?
That's a really, really powerful question.
This is what we need to be doing. Are we waiting? So like I was in situations where, I mean, God forbid, I'm talking some of these situations like, how did I walk away from that unscathed? Are we waiting for things to happen? Do we do that with the Green Cross Code, or do we, from the moment our children can walk, we teach them, you look both ways so you don't get hit by a car, you are aware, you're switched on. These are essential life skills, yet here we are, 50% of the population, our girls, whether it's South Asian, whichever part of the community you're from, we send them out completely uneducated in this whole thing. For me, these are essential life skills. Every woman, every girl, every female, not only here in the UK, but across the world, should absolutely know. Why are we not doing that?
Because we were talking about this, we were talking that there's no, this kind of attacking and violence, it's like a disease. And domestic, DV, you mentioned earlier, which is domestic violence, it's like a disease. It doesn't look at age or size or skin colour or religion or which part of the world you're from. Like, often there's sometimes mentality that you think a certain type of young girl or woman, the way she looks and, you know, the way her persona and all of this is, will attract that. But actually, no. And you're going to come on to the profiling that a perpetrator will do. So anybody, like, there's no, it's a disease and it can affect anybody and everybody.
Yeah. So I'll give you a statistic. This is statistics by Refuge UK. On average, England and Wales, 2 women a week are killed through DV. 2 women a week. So this, we have Sabina Nessa, and we have Ashling Murphy, recently murdered in Ireland. We have Sarah Everard. So these are the names that are in the media, and we hear of them all the time. But 2 women a week, on average, are killed in England and Wales every week through DV. And that's not to mention all the other women that are subject to violence and other things that happen on the street. So yeah, is it a disease? Absolutely, it's a disease of our society, completely and utterly. And I have a lot of sort of people say to me, oh, but you know, and I have a lot of trolling online from people that say to me, oh, you shouldn't be teaching this to women. It's not our problem. It's not our responsibility. And I completely and utterly disagree, because until we live in a perfect world, it is our responsibility as women, as girls, as females, to take our safety as our responsibility. And I say this out very, very loud, and I'm very passionate about saying this. It's not your husbands, your fathers, your brothers, your boyfriends, your fiancés, or any other male's relatives, your son's responsibility to keep you safe. It is your own responsibility to keep you safe. Because when you are alone, and when you are, God forbid, you are in that place where something should happen, it does not happen when you have your male relatives around you. It happens when you are on your own. So when you don't teach the young girls, and when we say in our communities, oh, they don't need to learn, that's where you are getting it so, so wrong. Because it is that, because you think, oh, she'll be safe because I'll always be with her. But it's the times when you are not with her that the problem arises.
Yeah. I'm going to move on now and to talk about the basic key messages. If we start with that, then we'll move on to a short break and then come on and do kind of like the more practical, physical demo. And then if you can also in that, I don't know if it's at this point or if you want to do it later on, talking about the physical skills and the verbal skills. I will do that after the break. Yeah. So just before then, just the key messages, because when I met Gulshen at the event that I'm talking about, it's these key messages. When she started sharing them, it just captured my attention. And I was like, wow, I need to share this with my nieces, with my sisters, and really get this message across to them. So over to you, Gulshen.
Okay, so I teach, so self-defence for me, and this is a question I always start off when I teach, is I always ask the women or the girls, what does self-defence actually mean to you? And I think immediately everybody sort of goes to, well, knowing how to punch, knowing how to kick. But self-defence is more than that. Self-defence is quite a holistic term, it's quite an encompassing term. For me, self-defence starts the moment you leave your safe space. Now, that's not necessarily a home for everybody, as we've just discussed. Self-defence is any place where you feel safe. Once you've left that space, you need to be, that's where your self-defence starts, literally. Because it means just keeping yourself safe. And the self-defence that I teach and the style of self-defence I teach is a very, very easy to learn. But I've adapted it in the sense that it's so much beyond the physical skills. From the moment you leave your safe space, you need to be switched on and you need to be aware. Because the physical skills that we teach, and I do teach some quite savage self-defense skills, some quite savage physical skills, but that has got to be your absolute last resort. Why? Because you tell me, Aamilah, who's your attacker likely to be? It's likely to be and I'm not saying, we just want to revert back on that point. Yes, domestic violence does happen to men as well. We're not taking anything away from that. I completely agree with that. However, we know the greatest proportion is men on women as opposed to women on men, although the other part does exist. But your attacker is more than likely to be a man. Your attacker is more than likely to be bigger than you. Your attacker is more than likely to be stronger than you. Your attacker is more than likely picked you because he feels that you are going to be an easy person to overcome whatever it is that they've got in mind. Now, it could be something as simple as a mugging. It could be more beyond that and more darker than that. We don't know. But your attacker has profiled you for a reason, that they know you are easy to overcome, you are easy to overpower. So my key message starts that if you could potentially spot a problem from happening or developing way before you've got to the stage where you use those physical skills, because bear in mind, if you and for you and I, as 5 foot women, our attackers are going to be bigger and heavier than us.
Definitely.
Are we going to manage a 10-round fight or a 10-minute fight? Of course we're not. Ultimately, their strength will overpower us. So whatever we do when we use our physical skills, we need to be in there. We need to be hitting hard as quick as we can and out away to safety. Because ultimately that's self-defense, being able to escape to a safe space afterwards. We're not there to fight. That is never the game. That is never the message here. So if I can potentially spot a problem happening before it has happened and pick up on those key things, now whether that's body language, whether that's the vibe somebody's given out, using our sort of natural instinct and our gut instinct, and spot that problem and take an aversive action to it, I've stopped myself getting to the place where I need to use those physical skills. And for me, that's a situation pretty well done. I've got home safely. So those awareness, being aware, being switched on, and we're going to talk a bit more detail of that. Those are the absolute first elements of self-defense. It's keeping yourself safe. And if I can change or do, so simple things like we were talking the other day, when I park my car, just being aware, where am I parking my car? Am I taking those risks? Not taking those risks in the first place. And unfortunately, I know women will say to me, but why do we have to change what we do? Because we do. Because we live in a world that if we want to stay safe, that's what we have to do. It's as simple as that. There is no other way to put it. Unfortunately, I can't dress it up any more than that.
And it's like when you said about parking the car, it just reminded me, I was out somewhere and it was quite a dark area that I was in. I thought, okay, it's going to get dark. It was starting to get dark, and then I thought to myself, it's going to get darker by the time I come back, so I want to make sure my car is parked underneath a street lamp. And so I had to drive around a few times until I could get the ideal spot underneath the street light, because I thought, I wasn't thinking about, I just got to park and get done what I need to get done, but when I come back to my car, it is going to be darker, and I want to be able to see my car, see what's around me. And I think this was after I had met you. I'm sure this is after I had met you, Gulshen, and what you had shared, because I've become more alert. But had I not met you, Gulshen, then I probably would have parked somewhere where it's dark and not enough street lighting.
You just hadn't thought it out. Yeah,
but you've inspired that in me. So let's go through these key stages and
key things. I'll always say, self-defense starts the moment you leave your safe space. The moment you leave that safe space, you need to be switched on. You need to be aware of what is going around you. If you are not aware, you won't spot problems. If you don't spot problems, that's where you're potentially walking into and I'm not saying it happens every time you leave your front door, but potential danger situations. So from the moment you leave your front door, put away your distractions. That would be my absolute number one thing. And I say it to my teenage girls that I teach in classes, and I say it to women all the time, put those distractions away. Key, first thing, the day and age we live in, that distraction, number one distraction, ladies and girls, is your mobile phones. Put your mobile phones away. Apart from making you a target, a mugging target, because most of our phones are pretty expensive, you're distracted. If your head and your eyes are in your phone, how will you ever see anything going on around you?
Head, eyes and ears.
Yeah, absolutely. I see all the time. I see as I drive past schools, every teenager's they're looking at their phones. They're not looking at what's going on. How many of us have seen those videos? People walking into the road because they've not even realised that they've walked into a road, and cars are stopping because they're still on their phones. That alone is a disease in our society. Just the fact that we are so engrossed in the things that we're doing. I see it with mums. I mean, do you know what? We multitask with so many things. You push Joe with one hand and you check your messages. I'm guilty of it. You think I'll just send one text message while I'm walking, I'll say that time. Put your phones away. That's my absolute number one message. Be switched on around you. Start actively noticing things around you. If you walk the same walk every day, you become very normalised to everything that's going around you, and you don't pick up on certain things. So if there's one thing I'm going to ask you to do is from now on, when you're out and about and you're walking by yourself, start actively noticing things and make a note of it. Make a note. What colour is that car that's just parked across there? Is there anybody sitting in it? Was that car there before, or does that look a little bit suspicious? Is there a van that's parked up alongside too close to me? Little things like this. It's not about being paranoid, it's about just keeping yourself safe by being switched on. I know I have potentially stopped a carjacking on myself when my children were little just by being switched on. I was in an area where carjackings there was a high rate, things were happening. And I noticed it's when you're distracted, so when you're putting your shopping in the car, when you're putting your children into the car, you've got your back turned, you're belting them in. And I was switched on and aware that I noticed there were a couple of people in the far corner of the supermarket car park looking over at me. And as I put my head in, completely, and that's something I will come back on, is your gut instinct. We are born with a gut instinct. Trust that gut instinct. That 99.99% of the time, your gut instinct will be right. We know as women, we have that intuition.
Yeah.
You have that feeling something doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, act on it straight away. I noticed these two men in the corner, and I thought, it just doesn't feel right. So I didn't put my children in. I just popped to the side and I looked over, and from a safe distance I confronted them and asked them, are you all right? Can I help you in any way? They then knew that I'd spotted them. They'd spotted me. I'd also raised awareness from people around me that there was something that was potentially suspicious. And you know what? They walked off the other way. Now, God forbid, I don't know whether something would have happened or not, but what I do know is my gut instinct told me that just didn't feel right. What potentially happened? Had my head in the car and putting the children in their seats, not noticing. Before I know it, they're on me, and I missed it. So being switched on, being aware, especially at places where you're distracted. So when you are with your children and you're putting your shopping in the car, etc. Just take a quick look around you. Am I safe? Is there a van that's parked too close to me? In fact, when you pull into a car park, just check, where am I parking? Does it feel right? If there's too many people in a car nearby, let me just park in a different spot. Let me not park next to a van where I will then be hidden and potentially in danger. So little things like that. When you pass somebody on the street, notice who they are, what they do. And it's not about, and we'll do this in the demo, it's not about staring them out and making them feel uncomfortable, but it's that momentary glance where actually I've noticed something about it. Does he have short hair? Does he have brown hair? Is he wearing a jacket? What colour are his trousers? Something. And that also tells that person, especially if they are potentially a perpetrator or attacker, that you've noticed them and you can ID them. Because it's when we've got our headphones on or our phone, faces in our phone, we walk past them blindly. Do we even notice if they've turned back and they're walking behind us? We don't. So it's little things like that every person can do. And teach this to your children, not only your daughters, your sons as well. Put their phones away, start noticing them. Boys are one of the biggest targets of muggings. Absolutely. I know boys on the way home from good schools going through Birmingham city centre who've been mugged with knives. And do you know what they've all been doing? They've been sitting on their phones. And they've not noticed this group of 4 lads coming towards them with knives because they're so engrossed in their phones.
Because if you notice that danger, then before the danger reaches you and approaches you, you could already have been doing something. So are there any other key stages, messages that you want to share?
For me, absolutely. Your prevention is always going to be better, and that prevention starts. Notice things around you, be aware of your situation. We're going to talk a little bit more about things like personal space and other things you've got as self-defence tools well before we use the physical skills, and we'll do that on the demo. But no, those are my key messages. Put the distractions away, put the headphones away, put your phones away. Just be aware and switched on of what is going on around you. When you park up in a car park, know where you're parking, ladies. If you are out of an evening, and we live in a day and age where we can be out in the evening, we meet friends for dinner. Park in a safe space. Go with a couple. If you're using public transport, here not so much in Birmingham, but certainly London, if you're using the tube, know where you're getting off on that tube. Don't be getting off at the station in the dark and then checking your tube map. Know your journey, plan your journey. Simple things like, if you need to get money out, you need to get cash out. Get it out in the daylight. Don't be going to a cash point dark in the night, where, you're setting yourself up. Plan things out. Make this your everyday. Make this is my routine. This is what I do. I know how to keep myself safe. Don't put yourself out and God forbid you're stuck, you need to get cash out. Go and get it cash. Go and get your cash out at a convenience store inside somewhere. Yes, it charges you. I know. But rather than be out on the street and putting yourself in that target.
Particularly if it's dark and it's getting late at night and your cash point, the cash point you want to go to is quite isolated. That's a really good piece of advice there. Okay, we are going to go on to a break now, where we will come back after the break and do a physical demo. So what I do ask you to do is to come back after the break, and if you are watching, please do invite others to tune in. We are live on Facebook or YouTube, and then after the break we will go through some. Gulshen is going to share some very important and crucial physical tips for us.
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আপনি কি কোনো আইনি জটিলতায় ভুগছেন অথবা কোনো আইনি সহায়তা চান? তাহলে দেখতে ভুলবেন না লিগ্যাল সলিউশনস উইথ সারাফ খান। চোখ রাখুন BEONTV UK-তে।
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
Beer Lounge Banqueting Suite, the first banquet need, full wedding catering facilities, individual rooms for bride and groom, 3 unique function rooms, 70 plus car park on site and prayer facilities. Beer Lounge, 45 to 47 Golden Hillock Road, Small Heath, Birmingham, 0121 772 7576.
ট্রাফালগার স্কয়ার কোথায় অবস্থিত? ট্রাফালগার স্কয়ার সম্ভবত ইতালি।
Manchester, isn't it?
ব্রিটেনের প্রাইম মিনিস্টারের নাম কি?
জর্জ অসবর্ন, জন মেজর,
সম্ভবত ওবামা। মানি ট্রান্সফার এবং এয়ারলাইন টিকেটের জন্য বিখ্যাত কোন?
টিকেটও লাগি হলি মক্কা,
Holy Mecca.
হোলি মক্কা,
হজ উমরা, হলি মক্কা।
অনেক কিছু ভুল জানা থাকলেও মানি ট্রান্সফার, টিকেট, হজ, উমরা এবং কার্গো সার্ভিসের বিশ্বস্ত প্রতিষ্ঠানের নাম হোলি মক্কা সবাই জানা।
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community.
শিক্ষা, সাহিত্য, সংস্কৃতি কিংবা জজ, ব্যারিস্টার, ডাক্তার, ইঞ্জিনিয়ার, ব্যবসা, নানাভাবে নানা ক্ষেত্রে আমাদের কমিউনিটির মানুষেরা আলো ছড়াচ্ছেন, আলোকিত করছেন আমাদের পুরো কমিউনিটিকে। নিজ নিজ অবস্থান থেকে সফল সেই সব আলোকিত মুখ, আলোকিত মানুষদের নিয়ে আমি বিলাল বদর আসছি BEONTVর পর্দায় আমার নতুন অনুষ্ঠান আলোকিত মুখ নিয়ে। চোখ রাখুন BEONTVর পর্দায়।
Is BEONTV UK. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. This is Wholehearted Living with Aamilah, and I am joined by Gulshen, Bano from Strikeback.
Self-defence
for Women. And we've just done an amazing first part, just talking through self-defence and some key messages. So if you have just joined, do go back to the beginning of the video and listen to the key messages that Gulshen has shared. So now we're going to do kind of like the practical side of some basic tips that you're going to share with us. And I am at your mercy, Gulshen.
Nice.
Go for it. And if you've got something that you want to share first.
So it's like everybody. Right, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the very, very basic things that I teach, especially in the first sort of like a foundation lessons and the first few lessons. And these are things that, you know, for me, what I teach as a self-defence instructor has got to be something that everybody can learn. So I have ladies in my classes who are 70 years old. So
wow.
So I have from 6 years old to 70. So it's got to be something that everybody can do. And these sort of just absolute basic things is absolutely key for everybody. It doesn't involve head kicks, it doesn't involve anything. Just really simple stuff to keep yourself safe. And one of the first things I always teach the girls and the women is boundaries and having a boundary. So if I say to you, protecting your personal space. So for me, your personal space is anything which is beyond your arm's length. A typical example, tell me when it starts getting uncomfortable. So if I'm coming in close to you, when it's uncomfortable there, right? So we've passed that sort of arm length. Don't let anybody who isn't your, who you don't want into your personal space. It's as simple as that. Because the moment somebody is into your personal space, it's you're in danger. Because once they're in your personal space, you're in grabbing range, you're in sort of anything that can happen, whether that's a headscarf pull, whether that's a slap. Keep anybody you don't want out of your personal space. And if they start getting close to that personal space, you need to create distance. So distance is your absolute best friend. And especially for young girls, I always say, don't let anybody in, whether that's a male relative, anybody that makes you feel comfortable beyond that arm length. Always keep them at that arm length. So your hands are a phenomenal self-defense tool. Apart from some other things I'm going to teach you to use. Just for keeping distance and creating a barrier, your hands are amazing. If my hand is up here, that's such a powerful non-verbal form of communication. That clearly shows you that I'm telling you to stop, not get any closer. If you don't read that and you continue to get closer, then that says to me that there's something more.
There's
danger. Yeah, there's danger coming forward. So your hands are a phenomenal self-defense tool. The other thing that is an amazing self-defense tool, and we don't use enough, and we don't teach our girls and our daughters and our females to use enough, is their voice. Your voice is, I shout very loudly for a little person. So your voice is a fantastic self-defense tool. Use it. You know, one of the key lessons we teach is to use your voice if somebody's making you feel uncomfortable. Create those boundaries and teaching girls from a young age that it's okay to say no. One of the biggest problems I have teaching women from South Asian community is teaching them to use their voice loudly, because we're brought up in an environment where we're constantly taught, you don't shout, you don't raise your voice, you don't want to attract attention
and
to
that's
yourself.
absolutely fine in the home, but when you're in a situation where danger is so close upon you, then the voice becomes a very powerful tool for you.
Absolutely. So if we go back to just before the break, we were talking about, creating distance or keeping somebody away or being switched on aware. So if we imagine we're going to imagine now, I'm a beautiful man who's a bigger guy and is intimidating and making me feel uncomfortable. I need to create as much distance as possible away from you. And part of that is going to be me moving away to make that distance. And at the same time, I'm going to use my voice and tell him and let him know clearly what I mean by that. So if you were coming towards me and I'm feeling unsafe, again, that gut instinct, use that gut instinct. Is it making me feel uncomfortable? As he comes closer, I'd put, hey, stay back. So and I make the girls and women have this as homework. Go away, have what I call a toolbox, a mental collection of phrases, words that you feel comfortable to use. It could be in Bengali, it could be in Pashto, it could be in Urdu, it doesn't matter. But they are your words that make you, that you can use. So for me, it's like, hey, stay back off, don't get any closer. Putting my hand up and making that really visible, clear what I want you to do. Everything we teach and I teach is under the UK self-defence law. So when we have those, there's a couple of cases at the moment in the media, can we use self-defence? Absolutely. We have a law of self-defence in the UK which says we can absolutely protect ourselves as long as it is proportionate and reasonable to the situation we're in. And everything I teach has got to be, is proportionate and reasonable, and I'll all explain that. So me putting my hands up telling you to back off. Now, if despite that, this person continue to come towards me, it leaves me then no option, if I can't get away to safety, to have to use my hands or some physical skills to strike. That is still okay under the law of self-defence if I am feeling that this person is about to attack me or potentially goes in for a slap or to hit me. Can I defend myself? Absolutely I can. So we're going to go through just a couple of really simple strikes that I want to show. This is something everybody can use. You don't need to be fit, you don't need to be super fit, but just some really simple things that you can use. So I'm going to get you to grab our kick shield.
Okay.
So you can brace yourself on the kick shield. So I'm going to get you to turn your body, put this against your shoulder for me.
This
Yeah, that's
shoulder?
fine, turn your head.
Okay.
Turn your head that way.
That way,
That's so somebody
okay.
doesn't get hit. Okay, so one of the things I teach is we use, certainly on the streets, or we use palm strikes. So you've got the heels of your hands here, which are very, very, very hard. We don't teach to punch because you've got a lot of fragile bones in your knuckles, in your hands. And if I hit the wrong part of you, my knuckles are going to come off way worse. So whereas the heels of your palms, and this is something even young children can do very, very easily, the heels of your palms are very, very hard. I'm going to demo this and show you just how hard they are. Brace that. So where would the target for this be? Shimona, what do you think? Where would the target for that be?
Towards the face?
Absolutely, face,
Yeah.
Easy target, soft target, maximum impact. And this is what I was talking about. It's not strength versus strength, it's creating an impact, it's creating target. If you happen to grab me or get close to me and I need to strike you, hitting you in the face with my heel of my palm will create a maximum impact. Potentially break your nose, potentially, it's easily give you a nosebleed. And that would mean you would back off a little bit and that gives you that space to escape to safety. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So heel strikes, how heels of your palms, how do they work? Really simply put, it is just a forward and a backward motion if I was to use both hands. So it's that and that. Can you feel that through
Yes.
there? Yeah. That on your face, and that's nowhere near full power. That on your face, straight into the face, works really well. And obviously in class we teach you the full technique. But just know that if I needed to strike somebody as a form of self-defence, instead of using my knuckles, use the heels of my palms.
And it's really interesting what you said there because it's not strength over strength, but it's what can I do to make it impactful.
Yeah. It's getting in, hitting hard, getting out, because that is the ultimate goal, to get out and get away to
Because
safety.
that was strong and that would take me off.
Yeah,
Like the
totally.
perpetrator coming towards you, doing something impactful.
Yeah.
As you said, with the
heel
heel
of
of
your palms.
your
Yeah.
palms, will take the perpetrator
Yeah.
back a bit.
Absolutely. So that's quite a good sort of like long length. If for whatever reasons I've missed all those signs or signals and this person has got in closer to me, other things that are really, really powerful to use are what we call sort of forearms or elbows. So these, I'm just going to get you to drop this just for a minute. So this would be potentially, so if we've ended up getting in a tussle and he's got very, very close to me, from here, these aren't as powerful anymore because I haven't got the range to come in. My forearms are extremely powerful from here. So an absolute forearm into the face,
Okay.
or even to the nose or into the face would have to take. And I'll show you just how powerful these are. I love elbows. Elbows for me, I think for women, are just phenomenal tools to use.
Okay, so this is where a person has gotten
A bit
closer
too close to you.
bit too close, and so the heel of the palm,
You
haven't got enough
Yeah,
space.
you haven't got- so this is a very, very close range. So if I'm trapped against sort of a bus stop, a wall, a toilet cubicle, and I need to strike to create space to get that person away. So I'm going to get you to turn again, brace that against your shoulder and turn your head for me. So an example for your elbows, if I'm using my rear back, the impact of this is hugely powerful. So it would be
That is
that against your face. So it's a huge bit, and that doesn't take much strength. For me, that's just using my forearm and just the muscle and driving my body into it. Where would that target? So I'm going to just drop that for me a minute.
Okay.
That would target, absolutely. If you were here, I'd grab, boom,
So it would
straight
be
to the face.
lower part of the
Yeah,
face.
yeah, straight.
Okay.
Really, really powerful. I mean, we have kits. We have this. These are simple things. I teach you to use an elbow. You can do it. You can. In fact, we'll get. You can use the heels of your palms. So I'll hold this kick shield for you. Have a go.
Okay. This is not in the plan.
No, this
She's
wasn't.
just put me on the spot now.
Try it. But I want to show that this is something anybody can use. So you are literally just hitting with those.
Okay.
Fingers turned back and hitting with those. There you go. Done?
Was that wrong?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
That in your and
that was really easy.
Yeah.
That was
shook
actually
me, though.
really
It shook
easy.
me there, didn't it?
Yeah, it shook you. You
Yeah.
went back. Yeah.
Totally.
So if that wasn't there, it was actually
Into your
physically
face.
on you.
Yeah,
It would shake
absolutely.
you as well.
Try the arm. So you're using all of that, driving it forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you need is just that momentary impact, enough that if somebody is that close to you, that they've backed away, and then I can create that distance again to stay safe.
Okay.
How was that?
That was good.
Well done.
That was good, yeah.
Sorry, I did put her on the spot there.
She did. Okay. And what about other, so let's say you've gotten really close and I've done that.
Yeah.
And I've got a little bit of distance. What do I do now?
Okay, ultimately, your goal has got to be, I need to get away to a safe space. So I'm going to look...
Can I just stop you there when you say that? That's a really, really important message. Because sometimes, like what you said at the beginning, it isn't to fight off strength with strength or to get into a fight. Ultimately, it is to escape and get to a safe place. And that's really key here, because often we have this thing where we watch the movies and, you know, regardless of what kind of movies you're watching, if there is anything relating to any kind of violence, there is usually getting into like a battle and having a fight and who comes out the winner from the fight. But this isn't the situation.
No.
It is going into safety or somewhere where you can get help.
Absolutely. So when I teach this to the youngsters and children, it's about getting to where there's other grown-ups. Going to a knife and say, we've had a lot of instances in Solihull recently where there've been potential kidnappings around sort of school areas. And I always say to the children, if you feel in danger, go and find another mum. Because we know another mum will always keep you safe. So go and find a grown-up, go and find an adult, go into a shop. As women, you know, if you're walking the street and something's making you feel uncomfortable, rather than keep walking down that same dark path, go into a shop if there's a shop nearby, ask them to get you help, call the police from the shop. Rather than pull your phone out and be on the phone on the street, get into a safe space before you do that. It'd be way, way easier. I mean, we've got a whole sort of rabbit hole we can go down about, you know, what should you be carrying with you, what you should not. But basically, get yourself to a safe space where you can get safe. And for children, that's going to be a public... So I was, let's go back a couple of years, I was in Touchwood Shopping Centre and I had somebody follow me. I was with my children at the time and I'd been doing crab then for a while and I had somebody following me. And I knew just by gut instinct that there was somebody behind me. And as I turned around, again, somebody saw this as an easy target. I'm distracted with children. It was very, very quiet in the shopping centre at the time. And he was just, and I gave him 2 warnings and I told him to back off. Exactly, I'd been doing this for a while then. And I knew exactly what I was doing, but first thing I did was get my children to a safe space, get myself to a safe space. I'm not there to take on, you know, a 10 stone, 15 stone, 6 foot guy. That's not what I'm there. I need to get home safe to, whether it's to my children, to my family, wherever that is, and I'm not there to fight. I'm there just to do enough that I need to do to get away to safety, and that's all this is about.
That's fine. Yeah. So I say I can't get away and he's come back to attack me.
Okay.
Right, what are the other things that I can do?
If you cannot get away and you can't get away to safety, so you're potentially there, you are in a much more sort of dangerous situation. If I've struck you and I've struck you hard enough that, because realistically, self-defense isn't like you see in the movies. It's not choreographed. It's very dynamic and it's moving. For me, if I was hitting you in the face and that strike had landed, you'd be covering your face potentially with your nose bleeding, you'd be on the floor. That gives me the chance to get away. If I haven't been able to do that, then we have so we have things like kicks, which are good long-range attacks. So I know with the kicks that I train the ladies, not head kicks, but simple kicks into vulnerable spaces. For the most vulnerable place we use for men is the groin. Yeah. Absolutely, every day of the week it's the groin. I know I can land one shot into a groin and I will drop a man to his knees. Sorry, I know I do it. And that's what I train my ladies and the girls to do. One shot. One doesn't work, absolutely, the second one will land.
Yeah. So the thing is to get to the place of safety, not thinking, okay, I've got away, let me get my phone out now and call for help. No, because that's going to slow you down. So what you want to do is get to the place of safety and then, from what I'm picking up from you, where there's a crowd, where there's other people, where other people can also give you help. And most likely, if a perpetrator was going to come, especially when we're outdoors, to attack you, it is going to be in a place where it's quiet and dark, and not to continue down that road, pop in to somewhere where you can potentially get help.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what we're talking about here, what you're saying, you know, if you are in a very isolated place, there is nobody else around, you've got to do what you've got to do. You are in your worst case scenario here, aren't you? You are in the absolute worst case scenario. And unfortunately, when we hear of things like Aisling Murphy in Ireland and she was running and it was a lone path and she was on her own, that's the reality, unfortunately, where these things happen. But that is where, if you have some basic self-defense skills, you have the best chance of survival.
And it's not because you're going to like get into a fight and win the fight.
No.
It's because you're going to be able to
disable that person
Yeah.
enough that they can't carry on doing what they were planning to do. And that's the key message there, is to say, I'm not killing them. It's still within self-defense laws, but if my life is under threat or my life is in danger, I need to act proportionately to disable that person enough that they are no longer a threat to me.
disable them and then get away.
Yeah.
To save. That's been some really, really useful, very, very useful. And I'm sure like women and viewers are watching and being like, I want to see more, I want to know more. But this is what we are going to have time for today. There is another question I've got actually, and I know it came up in the group before we move on. Things like, you start to become things like, okay, my bag, it's got my valuables in there. Okay, I've got my heels on, I need to run now. And somebody asked the question, like, what do I do with my bag? It's got all my stuff in there.
Okay, one of the things I would say, and I'll in fact, your example today, because you're wearing your jilbab, and that doesn't necessarily always have pockets. I'm a real believer in not keeping everything together. Okay, so I tend to keep my keys separate, my phone separate. I won't have everything together. Ultimately, if somebody's after your property, your car keys, it's a mugging scenario, first thing I will always say is hand them over. Absolutely hand them over. Your property and your sort of valuables are not more valuable than your life.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, if anybody approached you, and the same I say for the children, this freaks the children out when you say to them they've got to hand their phones over. And they're like, no, my whole life is in my phone. But absolutely, if you are in that situation where potentially it's a mugging scenario, somebody's asking, give your property. If it's your car keys, hand them over. It is not worth risking your life or potentially your children's lives for the sake of some property. So I would always say hand it over. In an ideal situation, don't keep everything together. But you know what? If you need to hand it over, you hand it over. We do a lot of scenario playing in the classes, and one of the scenarios we play with the teens especially is a real sort of real life scenario. You know, they're walking down the road, they're in the park, somebody approaches them with a knife, they want their phone. What do we do? And we work through scenarios. What is the safest way to hand something over? How would you hand it over? And there's lots of multiple different ways that we teach. But ultimately it comes down to it, hand it over. Don't fight for your phone. Don't fight for your bag.
And I think this is really important for parents, especially their younger children. If you have given them a phone, to let them know that if there was an event where somebody they were feeling intimidated or approached and about to be mugged because of that phone, hand it over, because your life is much more important.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go for a very short break whilst we sit back up and then finish off and share more details about how women can get into learning self-defense, and also we're going to talk about Hope for Handbags.
Hope for Handbags, yes.
Yeah, and something that you
charity
do.
that I support, yes.
So yes, so do stay tuned, and we are here on BEONTV UK, on Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well.
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আপনি কি কোনো আইনি জটিলতায় ভুগছেন অথবা কোনো আইনি সহায়তা চান? তাহলে দেখতে ভুলবেন না লিগ্যাল সলিউশনস উইথ সারাফ খান। চোখ রাখুন BEONTV UK-তে।
BEONTV UK, for the community, by the community. www.beontvuk.com.
Beer lounge, banqueting, individual rooms for bride and groom, 3 unique function rooms, 70 plus car park on site and prayer facilities. Beer lounge, 45 to 47 Golden Hillock Road, Small Heath, Birmingham, 0121 772 7576.
ট্রাফালগার স্কোয়ার কোথায় অবস্থিত? ট্রাফালগার স্কোয়ার সম্ভবত ইতালি।
Manchester, isn't it?
ব্রিটেনের প্রাইম মিনিস্টারের নাম কি?
জর্জ অসবোন। জন মেজর।
সম্ভবত ওবামা। মানি ট্রান্সফার এবং এয়ারলাইন টিকেটের জন্য বিখ্যাত কোন?
টিকেটও লাগি হলি মক্কা।
Holy Makkah.
হোলি মক্কা।
হজ উমরা হলি মক্কা।
অনেক কিছু ভুল জানা থাকলেও মানি ট্রান্সফার, টিকেট, হজ, ওমরা এবং কার্গো সার্ভিসের বিশ্বস্ত প্রতিষ্ঠানের নাম হোলি মক্কা সবাই জানা।
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. This is BEONTV UK and you are watching Wholehearted Living with Aamilah and I'm joined by Gulshen, Bano, and we've just done an amazing demonstration on some very, very basic skills of self-defense, and these are some of the things that Gulshen teaches as like the first parts and introductory with the girls and women that she works with. So let's talk about so somebody's watching this now from our viewers and they're like, okay, I want to go somewhere and, you know, I want a female instructor, I want a female environment. Sorry, I want a female environment. And then somebody might say, well, why does it need to be, you know, a female instructor or a female environment? You can go and learn self-defense anywhere. So what would you say to that?
Oh, absolutely, I agree. You can learn self-defense anywhere, but I think there's certainly a big proportion of the population that won't want to go to a mixed class. And I speak to, so teenagers, let's take teenage girls, for example. We know absolutely, even from sort of schools, as soon as girls hit a certain age, they're sort of like 9 years plus, they don't want to do the same things in front of boys, they don't want to, you know, they feel shy. So for me, a girls-only class or a women's-only class has an absolute huge impact. Women and girls can be themselves. They have fun. They can absolutely let rip and, you know, let go of all those sort of things that hold them back and learn properly without the judgment. And again, it's that thing, and certainly for women as well, whether it's a cultural or religious background, it's learning in front of, when you go to a gym and it's a mixed gym, you always feel that judgment. Is somebody judging me? What am I doing? How do I look? And the absolute joy in a women's only class is there is no judgment. You know, we're all women and we're all there to learn.
Because you yourself trained in a mixed class, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so at the time when I was learning, there was no such thing as women's only classes. So I've been doing this almost a decade now. There weren't women's only classes. There weren't, in fact, and there still isn't here, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but there weren't female instructors. The only choice you had if you were learning was a male instructor in a mixed class. And the class I walked into almost a decade ago, I mean, things have changed a little bit now. It was a very, very buff male-orientated environment, and it was pretty uncomfortable. And I'm pretty confident. In fact, I'm a pretty confident, you know, person. Yet I still found it intimidating. I was the only Asian. I was the only Muslim. I was the only hijab-wearing. In fact, up till this day, the only hijab-wearing Krav Maga practitioner at the time. And that was uncomfortable. And for me, certainly from a religious point of view, a religious aspect, and the same for most sisters that I teach, they don't want to be in that environment. You know, we have got the religious element. There's also the cultural differences. But also, if you have got a trauma background or you're a DV survivor or have been through some sort of trauma, all of those are potential triggers. I had a couple of instances in my class, and I take nothing away from my instructor, who's fantastic, but a couple of instances that happened in class where men took advantage of the fact that I was a young Muslim female, and they thought that, you know, she's not going to say anything, something will happen. And what I do know is, had I had a trauma or a background where that was a trigger, I would potentially have never ever come back again. But it's only through my sheer stubbornness and the fact that I knew how much I wanted to do this that kept me going.
And this has now pushed you, I suppose, towards setting up your own female only. So where can our viewers find information about you if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to consider doing self-defense with yourself?
So I'm based actually in Birmingham, Solihull, sort of West Midlands area. I teach classes currently in Birmingham and Solihull. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Strikeback Self-Defence for Women. I'm on Instagram as Strikeback Self. Webpage strikebackselfdefence.com. So you can get all the information there. So I do regular classes. I do teens, girls classes, women's daytime classes. Often I find women coming out in the evening, especially if you've got family commitments, it's hard. So I do run daytime classes in Alton, so it's accessible pretty much from everywhere. I also teach on Zoom, so some of the work I do now is globally on Zoom. Lockdown taught us that Zoom exists.
Yes.
The world is a very, very small place, and over lockdown and since lockdown, I teach workshops globally on Zoom. So I teach women through a charity that we're going to talk about, but I teach women in sort of Mexico, the Caribbean. I recently taught a girls' school in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, Trinidad and Tobago has a huge problem with trafficking of women and girls on the way to and from school. So I was teaching in a school in Trinidad and Tobago over Zoom and gave these girls skills that, you know, should somebody approach them, all the things that we've talked about today that they can do.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I didn't think you could do self-defense on Zoom, but hey, Gulshen has just enlightened me with something there. So thank you for that, Gulshen. Just quickly, as we come to the end of the show, Hope for Handbag, because that's something that you do as part of, you know, I suppose it marries up with the work that you do around self-defense. So if you just want to share with us a bit about that work, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Hope for Handbags is a charity that I'm part of here in the UK. It's hugely important. It's very, very close to my heart. It started, its base is in the US, but they've got branches now all over. And here in the UK, we've teamed Refuge to help women in DV situations. So Hope for Handbags, basically in a nutshell, we work to provide handbags full of essential items. So a woman fleeing a domestic violence situation and arriving at Refuge has all the essential equipment, all the essentials that we take for granted every single day. And what we do is collect handbags. So ladies, we've got handbags all over the place that we just don't use, you know, lying around, right?
I have too many.
Too many, we all do. So what we say is ask you to donate those handbags. We then also ask for donations of toiletries. So the basic things like shampoo, shower gel, hairbrush, deodorant. When a lady flees a domestic violence situation and arrives at a Refuge empty-handed with nothing, it means she has some dignity. And in this bag are all the things that we put together. So she's got a little care package. We put sort of notes in this, and my girls in my classes write little notes, just motivational notes to say, you know what, it's going to be all right, you've got this. Notepad, paper, sanitary products, all of those are in there so that it gives her just one less thing to worry about when she's arrived at those refuges.
Yeah. Sounds like amazing work that you're doing with Hope for Handbags. And I believe if you just go to Google and type in Hope for Handbag UK, you'll be able to find
Hope for Handbags UK. Hope for Handbags Global is the worldwide organisation. We're running workshops with them every 8 weeks on Zoom. So if all you wanted to do was just have a basic 2-hour workshop, get in touch with Hope for Handbags UK or myself on my pages, and I'll send you the link. Just jump in, 2-hour workshop, get some basic skills under your belt, and it's a great starting point.
So that's a really good place to go to, particularly just as a starting point. And you feel like, actually, I really need these, and wherever you are at in your life, do go and look at Hope for Handbags. Like Gulshen said, Hope for Handbags Global or Hope for Handbags UK, and then you'll find all the information there. Gulshen, we've come to the end of the show.
I know, it's got really quick.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed today's show, and I hope our viewers have. I'm sure you have taken something away in terms of being able to stay safe and the importance of staying safe on the street and learning the basics of self-defense. So any key message that you want to leave with our viewers before we end?
For me, I mean, we've talked about all the things about awareness. For me, the absolute key message is make this a life skill that you learn. Every woman, and that is the mission. That is the absolute mission for every woman, every girl, as they grow up, as they leave school, when they're even in elementary school, to know some basic self-defense skills. Because as women, we are a powerful force. But this, unfortunately, is something that touches so many women across the board. There isn't a woman you, I, or somebody else doesn't know of who's been through a situation, felt threatened, felt under danger, or been in, you know, somebody who's been in an easy situation. So these are life skills for women, and every woman and girl should absolutely know them. So please make an effort to learn. Go somewhere where you can learn them, or reach out so we can put you in touch with somebody who can teach you.
Thank you so much for that message. And like Gulshen said at the beginning of the show, it's like a skill when we teach our children to cross the roads so that they are safe when they're on the roads, crossing, looking left, looking right? Doing this as a life skill for staying safe on the streets. Thank you so much. You've been watching BEONTV UK here on YouTube and Facebook. Assalamu alaikum.
Beer Lounge Banqueting Suite is individual rooms for bride and groom, 3 unique function rooms, 70 plus car park on site and prayer facilities. Beer Lounge 45 to 47 Golden Hillock Road, Small Heath, Birmingham 0121 772 7576.
ট্রাফালগার স্কয়ার কোথায় অবস্থিত? ট্রাফালগার স্কয়ার সম্ভবত ইতালি।
Manchester, isn't it?
ব্রিটেনের প্রাইম মিনিস্টারের নাম কি?
জর্জ অসবোর্ন। জন মেজর।
সম্ভবত ওবামা। মানি ট্রান্সফার এবং এয়ারলাইন টিকেটের জন্য বিখ্যাত কোন?
টিকেটও লাগি হলি মক্কা।
Holy Mecca.
হোলি মক্কা।
হজ উমরা হলি মক্কা।
অনেক কিছু ভুল জানা থাকলেও মানি ট্রান্সফার, টিকেট, হজ, উমরা এবং